Hello and welcome to the very first episode of a long time coming, something that has been planned and talked about and discussed for years and years. The first episode of the Tech with Us podcast starring Jen Kimbrell and
Yay.
me, Chad Brinkley. We are here. It is happening. Jen, how are you
So
doing today?
excited. I'm doing great. I'm finally. How long have I been trying to get you to do this?
You have been trying to get me to do this since at least 2018.
Yep.
I was
So
doing I was doing some thinking about it and I was trying to track it back and I thought, Jennifer has been such an encourager and such a helper and so we have finally made it happen. This is the inaugural first launch episode of the Tech with Us podcast. We are so excited about it. Um as we said, we've been talking about it a long time, but this specific episode, we have been a lot of planning has gone into it. Jen has been working on a space for her to record at her house. I've got everything set up here, and so we are just we're serious about this. We're excited about it, and for those of you who don't know us, I'll let Jen kind of do her welcome and intro, and then I will, and then we'll just talk a little bit about how this came to be, how this connection came to be. But Jen, tell us, say hello, welcome, and get us started.
well, hello. Yeah, I'm Jen Kimbrell, and you might also know me as Tech with Jen. And I've been, I guess, on the internet for what, 9 years now, maybe. And I started out as creating a website to help teachers learn how to use technology in the classroom. And I was doing that with my one-to-one iPad classroom with a teacher of mine, Claudia. And that's kind of where I started, just getting out on the internet and talking about technology. And it's just kind of evolved over the years. I met Chad, gosh, what year was it when we met? It was
Like 2012, I think, is because I've done a lot of thinking about that. It's like 2012, 2013, but right in there somewhere because that.
so we really met when I started doing this, because
Well,
it was 2012 when I started my blog.
yeah, you were. This was when you were the tech, when you were the model classroom coordinator at a district, and at the time, I was selling education software for iPads, and you were the iPad guru, and I
Yeah.
came and demoed my software for you,
Mhm. Mhm.
and obviously you loved my presentation and thought it was amazing. I mean, like
Of
the
course, yes.
right, and
Of
so
course.
so we just we started working together with that software, and then just became fast friends because we just had so many things in common
Mhm.
about our passion for the classroom and what we wanted to see happen. And when I left, I used to be the way I got started in education. I sold textbooks and did tech in college and K-12 for a long time, and then I kind of got into the technology world by selling software into schools. And I just found a passion for. I didn't like selling. I like to help create.
Just environments. Like
Yeah, create
you were just
environments.
really good about showing teachers how, like, the possibilities, I guess you could say.
Right.
And so whether it be, because even though you were trying to sell, I don't even know, I don't even remember what it was now,
It doesn't
but
matter.
but you had so many ideas about how you could use the iPad and what it could do for kids in the classroom. And that's, what I wanted to do as well. Not a lot of people back then, especially, really even thought about that. It was just kind of new.
No, because we were talking about. I mean, we were at iPad 2.
Yeah.
Like it was iPad 2. It was. I mean, iPad had been out about 2.5 years.
Hmm.
It was a relatively new concept at all in schools, and you were one of the first ones that I knew that was doing it. And you were doing your model classroom thing, but it was early on the iPad train, and
Yeah.
we really just had this same idea of look at all the possibilities. We were, I mean, we were the I'm a dreamer. Just like that's
Mhm.
just it. I just think, imagine all the possibilities. I love to brainstorm. I love to try to think up stuff. And the great thing about the two of us working together is you were the application. You had experience in the classroom. You had experience in managing iPads and what the actual curriculum and the what it actually looked like. And so that formed a great team. Jennifer, then it was kind of fun. We talked a lot and whatever, and then she left the school district and kind of went out and was doing her online thing. And then we did some work in as consultants in a few districts that work doing some work together.
Yeah.
um we've just done a lot of stuff, but the one of the things that I'm proud of that I know Jen is proud of as well is we have a Facebook group that we started like 2017, somewhere in there.
Yeah, something like that.
I
I
think
mean, actually,
it may have been
I
16.
it started even before that, but it was just me and you know,
Right.
I just had people were coming in here and there, but it was just hard to.
The Tech with Us community on Facebook actually started about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And the fun thing that one of the things that we were doing then, and some of you in our group, and some of you that who know us and who are listening to this because we asked you to, and because you're our friends. Let's just be honest,
Mhm.
right? I mean, our first listeners are going to be people who know this about us, but we used to have a show on a platform, an amazing platform that used to exist before Facebook Live, before Periscope, before uh any other, all of the live platforms. There was a platform called Blab, and we had a weekly show. We had a weekly online show on Thursday nights
So much
that
fun.
it was so
It
much
was so
fun.
much fun.
So much fun. We had a blast. It was something that we were committed to. We had a lot of great guests. We had two great co-hosts. Um, Julie and Matt were there with us, and we had so many. It was just a blast. It was so
Mhm.
much fun doing that show. And so when Blab went away, we've kind of just worked on different things, and we've been through, I mean, we've just changed a lot in over the years, and our Facebook group has just continued to grow. I mean, we're over 13,000 members now, which is insane. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember when we had 100, and when we went to 200, we were just like, this is crazy. And then it
Wow.
was like
That's crazy, yeah.
500, and we're going, woo, we're big time. Now
Mhm.
it's 13, over
Yeah.
13,000 members in our Facebook group, which
Yeah.
is amazing. And the coolest part about that for me is that we haven't been doing a whole lot in the group personally, just the two of us. We
Mhm.
we comment from time to time. We'll post something here or there, but the great thing about our group is it's a community of people that support each other and ask each other questions and provide answers and suggestions to different things that people need help with
Yeah.
or ideas. It's amazing
Yeah.
what we see in our group,
And
right?
that's exactly, yeah, I mean, that's why we created it, is we wanted to create that community of people who, whether or not you're great at tech or not, like, if you have questions, you can come in and you can ask, people, and there's always someone that has an answer. And so that's really exciting that people help each other out and give advice. And so that's exactly what we wanted from it. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, and and it's not I'm it's we'll make no bones about it, and I will tell you till the day the cows come home that I'm an Apple guy. I've got my Steve Jobs say anything shirt on today where he's trying to be Lloyd Dobler. But I'm an Apple guy. I love iPads. Work at I have an Apple. I work at an Apple distinguished school that I helped get started, and that's a big thing to me. We're one-to-one iPads. Jen was one of the first people to go one-to-one iPads, but that's not all that's in our group. That's not all we talk about,
Right.
much to my chagrin. But Jennifer has she's got a lot of Chromebook experience and
Mhm.
has done a lot of that. So we're not. I mean, as much as I would love for it to just be everything Apple, it's not
Right.
only the only thing out there, and our group represents that well. I mean, like our,
Yeah, I
on
think so.
and people are very, very helpful and all that. But that's just kind of, that's something that is going to be a part. I mean, our podcast is going to appear in video format on the group. Our plan is to do this every 2 weeks. We're starting, we're going to go every other Wednesday. So this is Wednesday, September the 15th is when this is landing for the first time, and we're so excited for it to
Mhm.
land. It will be posted on our brand, and that's the other thing we're gonna talk just briefly about is we're rebranding the Facebook group. We're gonna have a new banner. We're going to have some new stuff. We're going to start being in there more as together and separately, and hopefully we're going to have some live chats, maybe some short live chats, some Facebook live chats every once in a while for our group members and for our listeners to ask questions or give us some feedback on a topic that we've had on the podcast, or
Mhm.
because Jen and I, we really love to have conversations.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
go
we're
ahead.
also gonna talk, we'll probably have a little bit of fun with maybe some competitions or prizes or things like that. Some of the things that we wanna talk about, we're looking for teachers that are innovative and uh-oh,
It's all right. No
I
big deal.
know. I don't know
Episode
what.
one, man.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So
People who
we're
are people who are driving along or exercising right now are going, "What?" Jennifer's camera just stopped
yeah,
for
and
a
I
second.
turned it off on unless I mean, the battery's okay, it should be, but
Yeah, well,
whatever.
we're technology professionals, so things
Yeah.
like that things like that don't shake us up at all. We just fix it and roll. So yeah, so we're gonna rebrand, we're gonna redo the whole Facebook group, and ideas for the podcast. Our goal for the podcast is just to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Um and to discuss things that are interesting to us, things that we or feel strongly about. Sometimes it'll be something that we're just talking. Sometimes we may be talking about something we don't know anything about, but we just think it's cool. And other times we may have a very specific thing that we're wanting to get out. So just look for it to be something fun for teachers. Anybody at the school, honestly, it's not
Mhm.
straight tech. I mean, even though that's what we do, I don't think that technology. Sometimes we overemphasize technology,
Right.
and I know this is the Tech with Us podcast, but that's what we've called it because that's where we got our start. And what we've realized, and Jen, I want you to talk a little bit about this. Is what we've realized is it's more about innovative. It's more innovation than tech, really, and tech is
Mhm.
part of that innovation. But that's really what our passion is how we change it, how we can make it great, that kind of
Right.
stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, initially when, iPads came out and we started using them, it was, of course, new and exciting. The thing that I like about technology is that it can give you a tool that maybe you can clone yourself as a teacher. It can make things easier. I don't know that a lot of teachers always think that it makes their lives easier, but if you the more you use it, the better you get with it. It does. It can do a lot of really cool things. But I think over the past few years, it's just become a little bit over than it's too much in a way. It's a lot of consumption, a lot of just the idea of taking tests, those type things on the computer, assessment. I would like to see more of innovation, of using it as a tool when it's the right tool. If it's not the
Right.
right tool, then we don't use it. That's the message that I think I would like to get across in terms of, you know, tech. I mean, I love tech, but it's not always the right, thing to use in the classroom. So hopefully that message will come across in what we talk about.
Yes. Because the thing that to add to that, the we have like we said, we've been working together for years on this. And our message from 5 years ago is the exact same message as today. Tech could be way overdone. It's very easy, and this is something that Jen and I'm 100% sure we agree on. Is so often the problem with tech, and it's the amazing thing and the problem at the same time, is there's always something new coming out. There's always a new innovation. There's always a new gadget. There's a new platform. There's a new app. There's a new something that everybody catches on to, and I don't blame them, because if you're somebody like us who's constantly doing training and training teachers and coming up with new, you know, teachers have to get hours, and you have to teach them stuff, and people have to have conferences, and they have to have things to talk about, and you can't go to a conference and talk about the exact same thing every single year, or people aren't going to come. So people keep coming up with things like AR and virtual reality, and and even podcasts. I mean, like, there's all of these different things, but what we have always said is it needs to be simple, it needs to be easy, and it needs to work. And
Mhm.
just because something new is available doesn't mean it's the right thing or that it's something that you should do. I'm all about always checking it out. I'm always checking it out. I'm always looking for new things, because we're trying to get that engagement. We're trying to get the best out of our kids. But at the end of the day, what I want is for learning to happen.
Right.
And if you get distracted by some new gadget or new shiny bell or whistle, sometimes it could take you away instead of doing what it's intended
Mhm.
to do, and that's
Mhm.
enhance. And so, Jen is right. Is tech as the tool when it's the right tool, and for me, it's all about learning. How do we get
Yep.
learning? Not how do we. It's not. I mean, it's somewhat how we teach. It's somewhat how we assess, but how do we guarantee to the best of our ability
Right.
learning to occur,
Right.
meaning that I learn something and I remember it,
Right.
not just for a test. I remember it down the road. I
Yeah.
remember it for years. I remember it, and I'll never forget it. That's the stuff we're looking for, is
Mhm.
the learning that I'll never forget it, right?
Yep.
And
Well, and we had that conversation with my daughter, Gracie. She's in college. She's a junior in college, and we asked her. Chad said, what do you remember as far as classes you've taken in high school or junior high or whatever? What do you remember the most? Like, which classes?" And every single one of the classes that she remembered were the ones where they actually did things. They created projects. I mean, she remembered the content as well because of the projects that they made, the things when they had more choice, you know,
it
and
was the
that
t- it
it
was the
just makes
teacher
such a
too,
difference. And the teacher, yes.
right? Uh, she said, "Well, we I had this teacher, and she was awesome.
Mhm.
She was outside the box. She had music playing in her room. She had lights. I mean, like, the lights were low, and it had just this cool atmosphere.
Yep.
And she liked she liked to listen to our ideas, and she always just had a creative way to do stuff. And what was crazy, and we've actually launched into our topic, without even saying it. But what the funny thing that she said to me, that I keep hearing in my head, is that the teacher actually got in trouble from the administration. I don't know why I said it that way, from the administration, because the kids were liking her too much, and the
Yep.
other teachers were getting jealous. The other teachers were like, "Well, the kids like her too much. You need to tell her to calm it down, and to not be so extra, and to
Mhm.
be so awesome. Can you get that teacher to not be so awesome?" I mean,
Right.
that's the sign that things are happening, and that's what I'm after. Is I'm looking for those people. I'm looking for those people who are saying, "Look, I tried it this way, I tried it that way, and I either used a piece of tech, or I
Mhm.
used some different mood, some different culture things in my classroom. I did something so that I could grab those kids' attention, so that learning would occur."
Right.
And so, that's basically the goal of our podcast. We're going to talk about. I'm really big right now in project based learning. Jennifer alluded to it a little bit. I think we're going to probably explore that a lot.
Mhm.
I'm been doing a lot of reading and doing a lot of exploration on that. We'll talk about tech, plenty of tech stuff, and what we really want to do too is have some interaction with our listeners.
Yes.
We'd love to have feedback. We'd love to have, hey, you guys are all wrong about this, or hey, here's some information about
Mhm.
that, or here's a project that I did that I really loved. I mean, that's what we're
Right.
looking forward to,
Right.
is having this podcast be an extension of this conversation that we've had and we've been having for a long time, and just get more people in.
Yeah.
So
Well, and hopefully too, Chad, this is another thing that's happening right now. I'm not sure if you know about this, but I see, in different groups that I'm in, where a lot of schools are talking about you know, because of COVID and everything that's happened, there's a learning, there's a problem where kids are behind. And so they are really mandating, this is the curriculum, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. Even getting outside resources, teachers have to get it, like they monitor it to see, yes, you can use this, no, you can't. Um, so I think sometimes I'm hoping that our message will even go further than just teachers. Is some administrators will listen to this and think, okay, maybe we're going about this learning slide the wrong way.
yeah,
We can't just keep pounding information into our kids' brains. We've got to have fun. We have to relate the curriculum to real world things. They have to understand why. Kids are smart. Kids have the whole world at their fingertips, and they need to understand why it is they're learning what they're learning. And so hopefully we can get that message out to administrators, but also give teachers maybe some ideas of how they can be a little flexible in, because teachers are rule followers. And if someone says you got to do it this way, maybe we can give them some ideas of how they can take what we're talking about and try it out in their classroom.
yes, that is what we want to do. In Because by design, what we have done in schools that we've worked in is we support teachers and we encourage teachers, and we try to help them find fun, creative, engaging ways to teach. And that learning loss. I mean, I'm so sick of hearing that word, and everybody's saying that on Twitter too. Everybody on Twitter is just like, I'm tired of the word learning loss. Well, get used to it, because it's how vendors are selling stuff to schools,
Mhm.
and it's what all the superintendents and all the people that are that are on all these Zooms together all the time talking about, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's this thing that we've manufactured called learning loss that we feel like we've got to work on. And I would say, and I contend, that learning loss has been a problem for a long, long time.
Yeah.
We're just now addressing the elephant that's been in the room the whole time we didn't even see. And learning loss has happened over and over and over because kids are not learning at all. Kids are getting something for a test, regurgitating it for a test, and then forgetting it. Learning
Mhm.
loss has been a problem for a long time. What all of these people, if they're being honest, what they're really worried about is scoring loss.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
the powers that be, they're worried about scoring loss. Like how
Mhm.
are we going to? I mean, we got to make sure that our scores are going to look good after the pandemic. We got
Yes.
to make sure that our that's what they're really concerned
Yeah.
with. And that's not completely their fault, but it is. And that's the truth. And what I'm hoping and what we're hoping is that we can start to look at this learning loss from a symptom of a problem that we've had for years and years and years. There's some there's a lot of data, there's a lot of studies that will show you that students who just learn facts for a test, because it's on the test, and don't actually learn it, they don't retain that. There's a movie that we'll talk about
Mhm.
at some point on the podcast that I absolutely love, called Every Most Likely to Succeed. And in that movie, there's a study that was done by an elite school, and they tested all of their students in one class in May in their science, and the class average was a B plus. And then 3 months later, when they came back to school, they gave the same kids the exact same test over the exact same material, and the
Mhm.
class average went from a B plus to an F
Yeah.
because the learning
You
didn't
just
happen.
forget.
They just
Yeah.
forget. They did what was
They
required.
memorized and they did well, and then they forgot it.
They did exactly what they were asked, and then they did it
Mhm.
and forgot it. So so learning loss has been it's something that we're trying to attack, but it's not just like something that's come around with COVID. And
Oh, yeah.
we could do 10 episodes on COVID, but
Right.
I'm about tired of it. So we're going to talk for just a few minutes. I mean, our first topic, and then we've kind of been talking around it, but Jen wrote on jenkimbrell.com. She wrote a great blog post a couple weeks ago about how fun improves learning and makes classroom management easier. Tell us, kind of talk about that, Jen, and let's kind of talk about what that means. That how fun improves learning.
Well, I wanted to write this blog post because I know there's a lot of talk about the science of reading and how the brain works, and they've got all these new, programs out there where, you have to teach phonics and you do phonemic awareness and all that to help kids learn how to read. But no one really talks about how the brain works when it comes to fun. And that's really what I think learning is all about. Is the more fun you have, the more engaged you are, the more you're going to learn the material, the more you're going to even go above and beyond to like try to find more information about that topic. And I think that sometimes that's missing in our classrooms because of everything that's mandated. We have, all the things that we have to do. And so we we don't have time to do what we consider maybe fun or whatever. So I wanted to just talk a little bit in that blog post about things that you could do in the classroom that were fun. Um, Even when it comes to just learning styles, you know, when you create a lesson, when you're planning it, think about how kids learn. I would say I would never really do a test to see like, oh, this child's auditory or visual learner, because I think that we learn differently in different times. I think that sometimes I might be more visual and then sometimes I need to put my hands on it.
Right.
And so what I always tried to do when I created a lesson was I wanted to incorporate as much of the learning styles into the lesson as I could. So that's one simple thing that you could do in your day to day, is to think about, am I incorporating all of the um, learning styles into my lesson? So, with technology related, it could be as simple as having, maybe something visual on your whiteboard or TV so that students could see it, but then also doing some hands-on with manipulatives or writing on a, whiteboard where all the kids have their own board that they write on and write the answer. I mean, just little things. Um, so I wanted people to just think about how they could incorporate those learning styles into their lessons and just make it a little bit more fun than just I'm going to talk and lecture for 15, 20, 30 minutes.
Right. And you know, it's kind of funny because whenever you say something crazy, like we need to make learning fun, people are like, well, that's not why kids are at school. Well, no, duh. I mean, there are a lot of, let's just put it this way, there's a lot more people trying to make school not fun than there are people trying to make it fun. And, and my hope is eventually they lose. But the deal is, it's not, I love the way you explain it because it's not just, making everything easy. It's not just making everything, oh, well, we have to cater to every kid and, oh, just because you don't like it. Sometimes you have to do what I say, right?
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
not what we're talking about.
Right.
What we're talking about is we are going, I say this a lot is here's the things that we know about school. We don't get to pick who our kids are in public school. We don't get to pick what we teach because that's, the state mandates that. Um, After COVID, one of the things that we can agree on where 90% of our students need to be, we don't get to pick who, we don't get to pick what, and now the where is pretty evident to most everyone that most kids, I'm not saying all, I have some exceptions at my house, right? So,
Mhm.
but where the kids are needs to be at school. The
Right.
only thing that we can really have our own say about is the how. We don't get to
Mhm.
pick who, we don't get to pick what, we know what's best for where. The how is so important, and that's the thing that we could do. And it goes back to, like you were saying earlier, what did people learn? What do people remember from school? I've been, there's something to this for me because I've been asking this question to people just randomly everywhere I go. So tell me something about school, because we get to talking about school and I'm
Mhm.
like, tell me something that you remember from school. I asked my mom the other night. I was like, Mom,
Yep.
what do you remember? I mean, like, tell me something you remember from school. And she said, well, I learned to sew whenever we made a pillowcase. And then I was like, oh, really? And
Mhm.
she goes, yeah,
Yep.
why? I was like, because you just said I learned when I made.
Right.
I
Yep.
learned when I made. And
Mhm.
and that is what your daughter said. That is what every single person I've talked
Mhm.
to has said is I learned when I made.
Yep.
And so that creativity is, the thing that I think is the most important thing. And that's where it doesn't have to be tech, right? Create
Right.
creativity means making
Mhm.
something, creating something, imagining something that doesn't already exist,
Yep.
that supports the learning or that is a response to the learning, or it shows the learning that I've just had, and that's what makes it fun.
Mhm.
I mean, worksheets be f- can be fun. I mean, sure.
I mean, sometimes. I
One
mean,
one
sometimes it.
worksheet can be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
30
But if you
worksheets
give
is
them,
not
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Just ask any kid who suffered through COVID last year. 30
Mhm.
worksheets is not fun
Right.
because that's the most schools, whenever we first shut down, the
They gave
the
those big
the
packets.
copiers were just smoking. It was like a fact.
Yeah.
There's a
Yep.
line out the door. Just teachers lined up, going, "We got to get these packets out." It's like a factory, just
Yeah.
turning out these. It's just like you drive through, and then there's this 2-inch packet of stuff. Well, this will
Mhm.
get you for this week.
Right.
You know,
Yes, and there's still talk about that. It's like, this year we're going back to in-person learning and everybody's like, I'm done with technology. I never want to see a Chromebook or an iPad again. And it's like, no, that's not what you do. One of the reasons why when COVID hit, my kids and I, we just continued rocking because they already knew how to use the learning management. They already knew how to get their assignments off of Seesaw. They already knew how to use all the apps that I, gave them and knew how to log in. They already knew how to do that. Don't wait until everyone's quarantined and you have to do online because you haven't taught them how to get on. I mean, most kids now probably know, but if you don't have that in your classroom, those expectations and showing them how you do it, then you're going to be printing out packets again and we're going to be starting all over. So I think it's important that you think about, I think, and just my own personal opinion, that it makes it so much easier on me as a teacher when I can give them assignments through the computer. It sometimes they didn't actually do it on the computer, they just took a picture of it and sent it to me.
right,
I mean, it doesn't have to be on the computer, but that's how they turn their work in.
right. Well, I asked, that's one of those things that we when I because I heard a whole lot of I'm so sick of technology. No, what you're sick of is
Mhm.
using technology in the way you had to use it.
Right,
If it hadn't been for technology during all of this, it would have been a lot more difficult. And
right.
and I actually had some of my teachers say, where we are, the board of the state board of education, or whatever it's called, the Department of Ed, said, that last in March when we first shut down, they said, okay, just don't give them any new content, because not everybody can deliver. There's not an equity across the board, across the state. So just give them work to do to keep them where they are, and don't give them any new stuff. Well, tons of schools said, okay, well, we're not going to give them anything new. We're just going to let them review for 2 months or 3 months. I've actually had teachers tell me that they were so frustrated by that. A lot of teachers are like, oh, great, I don't have to teach anything new.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a bunch of teachers come and tell me, I felt so, that just drove me nuts, because we didn't have a learning curve. We had everything that we needed. I could have just kept going and going and going with my students, but they were holding us actually back by not letting us deliver new content. So what we've been through is, this the haves and the have-nots of technology, the people who've made it a priority, the people who've not made a priority. And I said last year, and I'll say it again, that everyone was exposed by COVID.
Yeah.
Every school district was exposed. You were either exposed and you were exposed. The exposure is what your priorities are as a district or as a school. And
Mm-hmm.
the schools who've made technology and the use of technology and integrating it into their lessons and using it every day, those people were exposed as ready and prepared for the pandemic. The ones who have not done that were exposed as behind.
Right.
And they played catch up. And so there was some, it's fair to say, but the beautiful thing is, and I'm a Pollyanna. Let's look at the bright side of this, because there
Mm-hmm.
is. I've got teachers right now doing things that I've been trying to get them to do for 5 years,
Oh,
but
yeah.
because they had to use their devices for a year,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, I'm ready to try anything now. I have so
Yeah.
much more
I feel
confidence
more
in myself.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they've had some success.
Right.
And what the reason they were not big adopters early on is because they were scared of failure. They were worried they would
Mm-hmm.
not be successful. But now
Right.
that they were forced to use it and they have been
Mm-hmm.
successful, they're excited to try new things
Right.
and they're excited to do new stuff. And so,
Yeah, and I
that's
think we can both agree on this, that there's a big difference in teaching, with technology in the classroom versus trying to do a Zoom or Google Meet or whatever with your kids.
right.
I mean, I don't want people to think that those are the same thing,
Well, they're not.
you know? And so, or at least what we're trying to,
Right. What we're
share with
advocating,
teachers.
the bit where and we're this is just like me and you. We were just going to talk for 30 minutes. Um but here's what happened. And this is the big failure. When everyone complains about this and people talk about it, what we tried to do was in-person learning virtually.
Mhm.
We didn't do virtual learning.
Right.
Virtual learning is where the curriculum and everything is designed to be done somewhat self-paced, somewhat teacher supported,
Mhm.
on a device over a long period of time. It's all planned that way. The quizzes are in there, the tests are in there. My daughter is doing virtual learning right now. She did it all last year, and they use Canvas, and the whole curriculum is lined out for her to just sit at home and do her stuff and learn.
Right.
That's virtual learning.
Mhm.
What a lot of people tried to do was set up cameras and all these kinds of things, and it's just like, okay, you need to sit in front of this screen for 8 hours, just like if we were at school,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and I can't. We were guessing at everything, Jen. I mean, like this was unprecedented for schools to
Mhm.
do this, and while and we could talk about this with authority now because we saw what worked and what didn't work at
Right.
the time. I kudos to any and everyone who tried something,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because
Mhm.
we honestly, if we didn't have a plan, you had to try. And that's I've told people a lot. They're like, man, I'm really glad that we did this. I'm like, well, don't give me a lot of credit because we were guessing.
Mhm.
We were hoping that worked. We
Right.
felt based on what we knew, we thought that might be the best approach to do it,
Mhm.
but we were guessing it a lot. And so were districts everywhere.
Right.
So this isn't hate on them. This is just
No.
based on what we've done. There's never been a time greater than this to branch out. There's never been a
Mhm.
time to try something new and believe that you could do it, because everybody has had success.
Right.
And I will say this, and um maybe, and then Jen, I'll give you a final word, because this is kind of where I want to leave it. And I've said this to every group of teachers that I've talked to since the beginning of summer, when I started working with teachers again, with groups and doing training. For 18 months now, we've had, on the news and everywhere, there's these constant and thankful. I'm so thankful for them. We've had all of these interviews and talks with nurses and doctors on the front lines of COVID. And they keep asking them. I mean, they're wearing 17 masks and 2 suits and carrying an umbrella, and I mean, like,
Mhm.
just all of this protective gear every single day to go to work, and it's exhausting, and they're working long hours, and they always get asked, so why, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I mean, how do you get yourself to do this every single day? And those doctors and those nurses say, this is who I am. This is what I do. I don't have an option.
Right.
My heart and my guts and my everything, every part of my being is doing this. So I don't understand the question. This is who I am. And I
Mhm.
would say those people are right here at the top for what they've done over the last 18 months. My
Mhm.
number two in that group, right underneath them, are teachers.
Yep.
The teachers are the ones who have said the exact same thing.
Yep.
This, I mean, and because and so many people outside of the school walls don't understand what teachers do before, and they really have no clue what they did in the
Mhm.
last year.
Yep.
And please don't ever think I'm being critical of anyone in the last year and a half, because what you did as teachers, and I'm talking straight to the teachers right now, what you did is unprecedented and
Mhm.
unbelievably amazing what you did, because if every teacher was asked the same thing that those doctors and nurses were asked, they would say, listen, those are
Just
my
what we do.
kids.
Yep.
This is what we do. This is
Mhm.
who I am, and this is what's in my blood. This is what I'm meant to do. Now, not all teachers are that way, but the ones that, I mean, and that's a whole different topic for another day. But the teachers, the ones whose life depends on learning and seeing kids get it and seeing kids move up
Mhm.
and show progress, they are the ones who would say, "Hey, it's just what I do. I will
Yep.
do anything I can
And they
to get
did.
those kids there," and they did.
Yep, they did. They had to, I mean, I know at our school we had duty every day. We, up early, leaving late. I mean, it was a tough year, and I've heard even that I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I've heard that it's just as bad this year, really. It's a lot of, things going on. So,
Yeah,
teachers are struggling, again, but I'm hoping that with some of the things that we talk about, we can help in any way that we can, you know? I mean,
right.
sometimes there's not much you can say or do to help because 'cause you're not in the trenches, to do it, but if there's something that I can do to make it a little bit easier on teachers, that's what I try to do.
Yeah. And even if it's being cheerleaders
Yeah.
and encouraging and supporting and telling you that you can do it,
Mhm.
because and you should know it because you have, and it's just an amazing thing, and our kids are better for it. So on behalf of your students, on behalf of your parents, on behalf of your communities, and all of the stakeholders and the people who have not said thank you to teachers for what they did, I'm saying thank you,
Yep. Me too.
because it means a lot. It means a lot.
It really does. Yep.
So, all right, well, we probably need to wrap it up there for our first episode. We're like I said, we're super excited. This is be looking out for Wednesdays. You can find me. We're going to post all of our socials, Tech with Chad, pretty much anywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm working on all that. I'm doing better. I'm starting to do a little bit more. I'm starting to be a little more active on my
Mhm.
socials so people can find me. Um, Jen at jenkimbrell.com and Tech with Jen. I mean, like Jen is everywhere. We'll have all of our stuff posted. If you have any questions, please send us anything and everything that you want to tell us and help us out. But every other Wednesday, and be looking for our Facebook stuff
Yep.
dropping today. So pretty
Yeah, and
good.
join
Jen,
our if you haven't joined our group, come join us because
that's
that's
right.
great community to be a part of.
It is a great community, and it's going to get better. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
excited about it. It's
Yeah.
really kind of energizing, and I could have talked for another 2 hours, but that is a long podcast. And if
Yeah.
we go really long in this first one, then people from then on will be like, oh, this one's not as long. I'll listen to this one. Maybe, I don't know.
We can segment it out. We talk about this here and this
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. We can do segments, or we can turn one into three.
True.
Part two.
Yeah.
Part two. This is where Chad kept talking about this.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, guys, we appreciate you listening. We look forward to where this is going. It's going to be exciting. And if there's any way that we can help you, Jen, you did great. Thanks for all your help.
Thank
And
you. This is
and
fun. See?
it is fun. It is fun. I can't wait for
This is
people.
our however many hours ride to our school districts.
Oh yeah,
But this is gonna take its place.
absolutely. Where we just talk about, you know, how crazy is this, or how cool is that? That more, how cool is that? Maybe
Yeah.
not how crazy is that. So, anyway, that's it. That's episode 1. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.